Hi, my name is John Herbstrith, and I'm here to skim the surface and describe what libertarianism is for people who want to understand it a little better. Generally, libertarians hold the belief that freedom is the natural state of man, that we're born free and we should remain free throughout our life, that liberty is the basis for all other rights. Everything we have or have to gain comes from the very fact that we're free. One of America's first libertarians in principle is Thomas Jefferson. Although he wasn't present at the Constitutional Convention, he penned the vast majority of the Declaration of Independence and wrote that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. My central point here is that the founding document of our republic clearly states that the very purpose of government is to ensure that our freedom, not all the other things that it currently does under the general welfare clause of the Constitution. Because large government tends to swallow individual rights for the good of society, libertarians are feverish in their belief of a smaller government. However, anarchy is not a libertarian belief. Libertarians believe in limited government, not zero government or no government. A complete absence of government is anarchy. Under anarchy, there's no government to protect the rights and freedoms of the individual. Under anarchy, people would steal not only material possessions, but hinder the freedoms of others. Government's core responsibility is to ensure that this doesn't happen. So libertarians understand that government is to act as a referee, but not as a central player in the game. Americans are brought up to believe that whatever they believe freedom to be, that's what it is. But that's not really freedom. The most common example I tend to ask people is about a statewide smoking ban that was instituted a couple of years ago. It's something people know about and have a non-abrasive opinion about. I'd ask if they believe that such a thing as a smoking ban is acceptable. If so, why? Usually the answer that they like to give is because it allows them to go into restaurants they want to go into without smoke bothering them. Immediately, I wonder if they believe that they're not being bothered by other people smoking is something that should be enforced at the expense of the rights of the business owner. He invested tens of thousands of dollars and is told he can't do what he knows would help his business. The typical response is to retreat from the previous answer and say you just have the right to sit in a non-smoking facility. You're right, you do, and that building is another building down the street or in your home. At this point, you would have destroyed the owner's ability to control their own establishment for your pleasure. If you don't want to smoke, you tell the owner that you'd rather he change his smoking policy. In economics, this is termed as consumer sovereignty, and it works. Eventually, through loss of business, he'll change his mind. Maybe he won't. However, both individuals under this circumstance would retain their rights. We don't have a right to everything we want. Libertarians generally believe in what are termed as negative rights, meaning that you can't force rights from someone else, but instead have intrinsic rights that can't be taken away from you. Typically, positive rights infer that another individual must perform an action that enables your rights, while negative rights exist within one's own personal boundaries. An example of positive rights would be taking money from one person to give to another in order to attend college. While it may seem fair in the name of equality, by forcing a person to give to another, you're stealing one's intangible efforts, their time, their ability, and obviously their money. The purpose of equality should be to allow equal access to attempt to improve one's life, not the equal outcomes. Otherwise, you're pulling the high earners down to the lowest possible level. The negative rights response would be to ensure that the individuals have the same opportunity to enter school with no legal barriers. By this, I do not mean setting up a framework to financially help, but instead tearing down the barriers of entry at the higher level of education to all. Libertarians also follow closely to the principle of utilitarianism. This is also a theory that is quite close to what economists follow, which is why they excel at understanding economics so much better than the other groups on various tests. It's important to remember that economists simply don't study economics for the money, but they study how people use limited resources to gain maximum happiness. Unlike liberals, who want you to be happy in social aspect of your life, and conservatives, who want you to be happy with your pocketbooks, Libertarians apply this maximum happiness to all aspects of life. After all, why should the government tell you how to run your life? I think you can run it better than anyone else. I bet you'd be happier if I didn't tell you who to date, or what to drive, or how to eat, or how much money you should make. This list goes on indefinitely. I think that covers most of the basic questions. If you want to understand more about libertarianism, I would invite you to go to one of the websites that's listed below, or you can just read a book or two. Typically, libertarians would suggest the book Atlas Shrugged, but I wouldn't start with this. While Ayn Rand is a genius writer and philosopher, the book is and it's centered around a storyline from decades ago. It's a great novel, but it's a novel. In fact, if I were to read an Ayn Rand novel, it would be The Fountainhead. That's just my opinion. Most people would disagree with that. For most of the part, libertarians want you to read Ayn Rand because she's the founder of objectivism, which is a core philosophy of libertarianism. However, if you want to understand in a more easily attainable and frankly a funner level, I would suggest one of John Stossel's books. It's topical and he's a good reporter, so he keeps things moving well. The book is much shorter and with bigger words. Compare Atlas Shrugged to Myths, Lies, and Downright Stupidity, and you can see why I'm making this point. If you want to go a little further, I would suggest Milton Friedman's Free to Choose, or Mark Levin's Liberty and Tyranny, although Levin's book focuses more on what most libertarians would consider the Republican dogma. It's still a good read. I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to any comments or other things that you believe would help the videos. Thank you very much.